Hello and welcome to the Worn and Wound podcast. My name is Blake Buettner, and we are in our own studio today in our office here in Brooklyn. I've got Patrick right there. Hey, Patrick.
Hi.
You didn't open the beer.
No, I didn't.
Beforehand, so now
it's twist off.
It's a twist off.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, that wasn't even that bad.
No.
We have Zach Kazan joining us as well in Concord. Hey, Zach, how are you?
Hey guys, I'm doing well. How are you?
Excellent. It's Friday. We're heading into the weekend. Patrick, how was your Halloween?
I'm good. My Halloween, Wasn't it Halloween happened? I did nothing.
Okay.
I
did nothing.
I thought I saw some ghouls and ghosts out there.
You just thought, it's New York.
No, we did nothing. My mother's birthday's on the 30th. I called her. That was great. Spent 2 hours talking. Halloween itself, I went out, got some discount candy, I guess. There you go.
Okay.
Some peanut M&Ms.
That's the real win for adults.
What's your go-to candy, Patrick?
Honestly, it varies year to year. But this year, as well as last year, I've been hyper into peanut M&Ms. I always have been, but that's sort of it's like the clutch go-to. It feels a little healthy, but it's not. The candy coating's great.
It feels healthy.
It's mostly just the peanuts.
The peanuts.
Peanut has
protein,
health benefits. So it's pretty much a healthy snack.
That or Twix.
Twix are good. Yeah. What about you, Zach? What do you like? What are you out for? And you didn't dress up as anything.
No, I don't dress up for Halloween. I'm not a child. I don't dress up for Halloween. In terms of candy, I like like coconut candies. Like I'm really into Almond Joy. Like that's a personal favorite of mine. Yeah,
not to judge, but I am
more for me.
It's
fine.
Yeah, it's always left in the bowl.
Yeah, I do not.
Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Almond Joys at all. My son does though, and he was like taking them from other kids. We're like trading for them.
Oh, and, okay. So not taking.
Yeah, not taking. Yes, not taking. He was trading.
Is that an Almond Joy?
It was. Yeah, and I was like, "You're weirdo. Those are gross." And but they after at the end of the night, after we like trick or treated and all that stuff, we went to the park near our house with all the kids that we were with, and they all like dumped out all the candy into this into like piles in front of them, and then they would like look at what they got and then go take turns trading stuff and all that. Except for one little kid had a little sister who was just kind of like wreaking havoc, taking candy, running away. You know how it is.
Right.
Did you see Steve Buscemi this year?
No, we didn't get over. His place was we got over there a little bit later than we wanted to, and I think about a certain point in the night, things get kind of busy enough on these streets that, and he's a big enough star, right? I don't know. So
never heard of him.
Maybe he's like, all right, I gotta. But so I think like in the early hours, he's out there
lurking,
doing stuff. But I don't. Maybe he wasn't. I'm sure he's a very busy guy these days. I think he does stuff.
Yeah.
He's in TV shows and movies and stuff like that still. So, yeah. So I don't know if he was out or not. But yeah, it was a fun time. I enjoyed Halloween. I didn't dress up all that much, but Liam, as I mentioned, was Lewis Hamilton, and I put on my Mercedes stuff to be Toto Wolff. So, and I took the lenses out of my sunglasses, cheap pairs of sunglasses, so to like have because he has those dark rimmed glasses. So I don't know if anybody got it, but that was that. So and for the record, I am a Baby Ruth guy.
Okay. There you go. It's the peanuts.
Yeah, it's good peanuts. It's
healthy.
It's like the better Snickers. It's a better Snickers.
Oh, that's
I don't
tough.
know if it's better than Snickers.
I'll say that. I like Baby Ruth.
I have nothing bad to say about Baby Ruth, but better than Snickers.
I would say Snickers hold up better. I feel like the majority of Baby Ruths I've had have been really, the nougat gets really hard. Whereas like a Snicker that's, expired at your local deli, it's still going to be a Snickers bar.
Well,
like Baby Ruth chemically
Baby Ruth
changes.
Is all natural, organic stuff.
Right. Okay. Got to get them fresh.
Yeah, exactly. What are you wearing on your wrist, Zach?
I'm wearing the IWC Pilot's Chronograph 41 in Serotonin today.
What strap is it on?
It's actually on. I put it on a wind-up shop strap. It's like a green kind of like rustic leather. I don't know what it's called. I'm terrible with the names of these things, but we can link to it in the show notes. But it works really well with like kind of like the dark tones of the case. It's a nice combination. I have to admit the polished steel buckle is giving me anxiety. Like I need matching hardware. So that's gonna be fixed soon. But that was a really good strap combination.
Do you have the strap that you got for it? Does it have like a serotonin buckle hardware as well?
Does.
So you could theoretically like take that off and put it on a similarly tapered strap.
It's too wide, so that buckle is it's 18 millimeters. I need a 16 millimeter. Buckle
It only goes.
But it's incoming. So
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, that's exciting.
Matching hardware. I like that.
Hardware,
That also really bothered me. And also, like, if there was a buckle that had like their logo on it, I would need to get the matching buckle. When it came to vintage offerings, at least, it's funny. That's a step further than just matching material, I suppose. I'm with an SBG N027. I had to look it up. I don't remember the reference on this watch.
But this is the watch that you opened
live.
What was that? Was that the last? Was that a couple weeks ago?
It was maybe a podcast back. But yeah, if you didn't hear me speaking, it's because I was focused on this watch for 40 minutes. But it uses a 9F86 Quartz GMT movement. Fantastic movement. Still accurate to the second. You can view with me on my screen here. But no, it's phenomenal. I love this watch. I also purchased another watch recently that I won't mention yet. But I was going to be wearing that. But,
you're not going to talk about it? You didn't want to talk about it? You didn't want to say what it is?
I didn't talk about it. Okay. I wanted to wear it in. I was going to give this watch a break, but no breaks yet.
Okay, you're still enjoying that one. And you got it sized appropriately?
Yeah.
Three. Did you put the half link on the other side?
I did. Well, look at the fit.
Yeah.
Look how comfortable I am.
It looks.
You can tell, right?
You're like a whole new man.
Exactly. It was the bracelet.
Over the weekend you were stressing because it was pulling on the wrong side.
Exactly.
Just a little bit. So
exactly. So that little devil.
It's a fine art to getting these things sized appropriately, but it makes a big difference when they are.
Yeah.
So
genuinely.
And you're a guy that, like, when you start wearing a watch, you wear it for...
Right. Like, this isn't going to change. This isn't going to change at all, unless I decide to take a bracelet. And you're not going to, like,
stick a NATO on there.
No.
And all that. Like,
I'm not like one of those weirdos.
You're not like, exactly. Sorry. Putting different straps on our watches.
Insane.
With non-matching hardware, even.
Yeah. There's a whole market for this? No. Crazy.
I'm really out of character with the matching hardware, I have to say. Like, it's very strange for me. But.
Yeah, mix match hardware is weird because I have our Christopher Ward Sandstorm LE, the blacked out version, and I was just searching for black DLC buckles to go with that watch because everything else I own is like stainless steel brushed or polished, which is so weird. But also the handset on that watch is silver. And I can't just replace that. So that is as intended, I suppose.
It's under the crystal. Yeah. Okay. All right. Speaking of crystals, well, maybe we'll get to this in a little bit.
You getting an amethyst collecting? What?
Well, no, like not those crystals. There's something that I want to ask you guys about that I may have stumbled on that may be relevant for us, Zach. I think I explained it just briefly with you in a Slack channel. Because of this one watch claim that it made. But anyways, first I'm wearing an Omega Speedmaster with the 3861 on its bracelet. This is one of the few watches that I generally keep on its bracelet and like it on its bracelet. I really love the bracelet on this watch, and yeah,
it looks good with that.
It just makes it.
It's a good bracelet.
It's a good bracelet, yes, and it's got that taper too. It's got like it's like a 20 to 14 or something. Like it's a steep taper, so it wears very elegantly on the wrist, which I quite like. Of course, the Speedmaster looks great on anything that you put on it, but every time I do, it's like a day later I go right back to the bracelet. So, but I haven't worn it in a little while. I thought I'd get out of the box and wear it for the weekend, which is okay. You got to do that from time to time. I'm not quite like you where I get a watch and then I just like, that's what I'll wear for a couple of weeks. I would like to. Sometimes I would like to because we get a lot of watches going in and out of here, and watches that you're reviewing, and like you have to give it an honest shake. So you have to wear it for days on end or weeks on end, and then sometimes by the end of this, you're like excited about wearing a watch that in your own collection. Like, I'm excited to get back into this watch or wear it, and then you get like maybe a weekend of wear before you jump into another watch that you're reviewing or something like that. So. Anyways, that's me. I've got another watch that I have been wearing for a review quite a bit, and that is the Formex Essence Leggera. Maybe I'll push the review of that a little bit because I own it, and I want to have some time to get that proper like impression.
And you've only owned it for like a couple of weeks.
I've only owned it for a couple of weeks. This is true. Yeah.
It's a cool purchase. It was one of two purchases I had wind up.
Yeah. It's. I know. We talked about that on the last podcast. I thought for sure other people would have bought something.
No one else bought anything?
Well, Zach and Josh didn't, and they were both there. Did you buy anything?
No.
Okay, just me.
I just bought the Grand Seiko.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, you got the Grand Seiko. I mean, yeah, that's a different.
I have hardly visited any booths. So I was so busy. If you want to sell the other watch you purchased, though, let me know. That's one mechanical watch I could go for.
Yes. The DMH, and we'll have something more on that as well. That
so
how
cool
is that thing?
It's so cool.
So pretty happy with wind up this year, there was a few watches that I could have bought. That I think it would have been. You got to draw the line somewhere, though, right? 2 watches, 3 watches, 4 watches. I don't know.
Does Timex count? If it's sub 300, does that count as half
a
watch?
That doesn't count. You just go.
No, it doesn't count.
Yeah, you need to have like a point system structured, and you're like, okay, I got 4 points to spend on watches.
Yeah. But no, a watch that recently hit Kickstarter that we wrote about. Was coming out next week. By the time this goes up, it will have gone up. The Trafford Crossroads.
Right.
It's a square. It's kind of bowed out. It's not quite cushion. I would still call it like a square case. And they in the Kickstarter page, they talk about its dimensions. So it's squarish, and it's 36 millimeters wide by 38 millimeters tall, and they claim it's the same as wearing a 40 millimeter round watch, right? The smaller square watch, there's still more area there in the watch that's taking up space on your wrist that's not accounted for in the diameter measurement, and it's not accounted for in a lug-to-lug measurement, right?
Right.
So, and I thought this was interesting. So I thought, well, they're making that claim about the 40 millimeter watch. So I thought, well, let's just calculate the area based on those numbers and see how close it actually is. And I figure this could be a good way for us to measure, I guess, watches that have unusual case shapes.
To give an approximate
an approximation of this is like the area that it is. So the 36 times the 38, that's easy. And then the area of a circle, pi r squared. So the radius is we have the hand stack there, right? So anyways, you just get to take the diameter, cut it in half, multiply the square of that by pi, and you've got your area.
Did you? Everyone following along?
But did you do the math?
So I did the math. It's in the article. Yeah.
Okay.
And I found that the number for the 40 millimeter, the area for it was quite a bit less, I would say, than what they were claiming.
They said 38.
Yeah, so they said, the watch is 36 millimeters in diameter, but it's square again.
Sure.
And they said it's like wearing a 40 millimeter watch. Okay. So I compared the areas of the two, and the area of the square was still a bit bigger. You had to go up to a little over 41 millimeters to get an approximate equivalency of the area there. So like 42.3 millimeter or 41.3 millimeter watch would be the equivalent of this square. Anyways, besides this specific watch, I figure there's a lot of watches that we come across that have kind of odd shaped cases. This could be something that we could do to kind of put a benchmark in place and judge them against,
I mean, that's really relevant information.
The areas of other watch. And I think it could even be applied to the viewing window of the watch itself.
Right.
Of like the diameter of the crystal, right? So measure that and then divide it in half, multiply the square by pi, and then you come up with the area of that viewing area. So I did it with another watch that I have on my desk, a Fairer, which is 39 millimeters, and this Speedmaster, which is 42 millimeters, but the viewing area, literal area, was exactly the same, because the Fairer goes right to the edge.
Yeah.
So anyways, I mean, it's something that you don't really think about, but you're like, this watch visually reads a lot bigger than it is. And
what you're saying that you'd say that dial face contributes more to it. Like if the dial face is larger,
more of
it feels larger.
Yes.
It's interesting.
Obviously, this is getting maybe bogged down a little bit too. It's easy to kind of miss the forest for the trees here. So it's a fun thing to look at, and I think it's interesting to account for, like, why does this watch feel a little bit different on the wrist or look a little bit different here? And maybe it's things that you like can't quite put your finger on that we could quantify a little bit, but you still have to take a step back.
I just want to point out, just real quick before we go any further, that you wrote in June an opinion piece called "We Need to Talk About the Numbers," where you argued, if I'm not mistaken, that we need to spend less time kind of talking about the numbers. Yeah. And you spent the entire afternoon doing math for a watch review.
Well, look, I like math. And this was because on their Kickstarter page made a claim. And I thought, I can test that claim.
Right.
So I wouldn't have just gone out of my way to do this if it weren't for that, for them saying it wears just like this. And then they gave like the measurement of another thing. So like that's into the realm of like, that's not just like your opinion, man, right? Like that's a fact. Yeah. Like, so I wanted to give that some greens, but I will still, so to me, it's just like a fun thing to do. But, I'll be the first to admit you got to take a step back and say, well, how does it feel on the wrist? Is it comfortable? Right. Is it wearable? Is it all those things? And the Trafford is, however, I would say that it does feel a little bit larger than what they claim. And they're selling it on that. So I think people need to know accurately.
Fair. So, I mean, that's the thing is feel like on the wrist is totally subjective. Everyone's going to have a different opinion. I'm not sure that I'm really, I don't know that I'm in line with this idea though, that like you can like equivocate like the area of a square watch with a circular watch. Just like, I guess you can in terms of like the math of it, but visually they just look so different that even if the rough area is approximately the same, it's going to have like a very different visual impression, which I'd argue is more important in, your day to day with the watch than like how the math shakes out. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but
that's
like,
why I was
there's
thinking,
a visual component that's like inescapable that like kind of trumps the math in my opinion.
But if we could put a number on and that's why I kind of honed in on like the actual viewing area more than like the case itself. Because I feel like that's kind of quantifying the visual impact that it has on you, regardless of, the footprint it has on your wrist.
I like that they felt the need to give an equivalency to a round watch, as if that is the standard by any measure. Why round watch if any other form of watch case? I guess it is the most common scale, so to someone who only has ever owned a round watch, it's maybe relevant. But I like that they thought that it mattered to give that equivalency to begin with. But it's not hyper relevant. Like you were saying, it's very subjective. It's not like, when you say this, in speaking of cameras and videography, everyone equates things to 35 millimeter focal plane. Right. So like my M43 lens is equivalent to a 24-70. And it's like, okay, well, that's relevant info because now I know the viewing angle of my lens. But you tell me this watch is going to wear like that 40 millimeter watch you own, but it has, squared off ends. It's a square case or rectangular case. The visual impression is going to be different. Like it's not very clear. It might, maybe the measurement that's on my wrist will wear similarly, but it's like it doesn't feel like relevant info for me.
Well, I think the best way to put it, and this is what I think Apple does right with the Apple Watch is it's the diagonal. It's on the diagonal, and I think that's a much easier to understand like measurement and.
The TV measurement.
Yeah, the TV measurement, and it gives you a sense of. They don't say, well, it's kind of like wearing this or that or whatever. Like it just is what it is, and that's the most accurate depiction of. Oh, well, I can immediately kind of visualize that. Like I can't visualize the area of like 1,000 millimeters on my wrist, but I can't like if it was that diagonal. I could get in the ballpark there. So
it's interesting.
I agree.
Yeah. Good on you, Apple.
Yeah, yeah, they might be onto something over there. All right. Anyways, you guys saw the Trafford. What did you think of that watch?
I did.
Did you like it?
I thought it. What did I liken it to? I thought it was a Shinola.
It's got a little bit of kind of like Americana vibes.
I don't know Trafford from Shinola though. Do I?
It's a new. It's a new Texas based brand.
I did like the coloration of it. I thought it was very playful.
That's actually my favorite part of the watch. It comes in like 4 different dial colors, and they're each named after like something regional and like culturally relevant to Texas. And they all have like this bit of lore that he wrote for each of the colors, and it kind of brings them to life in a way that you don't really think about colors on the dial. And if you didn't know any of that, they just like look like normal dial colors. I mean, they're nice and they're pretty and all that kind of stuff. But with that bit of like lore attached to them all, I don't know. It went a layer deeper that I really appreciate.
Yeah, like if you're a Texan, maybe you'd appreciate like this level of color detailing.
Yeah. What do you think about this watch? Do you like square watches, Zach? Are you a fan of?
I do. Yeah. No, I like square watches. I've owned square watches in the past. I haven't seen the Trafford in person. I've just seen like the photos that have been like floating around. It's very attractive. Mm-hmm. I'd be curious to handle one. It's nice.
It's on Kickstarter.
It's on Kickstarter. Yep. You know what? This just occurred to me. What watch could use an area measurement? Is that old Zenith of yours that Eric has now?
Oh yeah. That one. I don't know. I don't remember the formula to calculate the area of that shape. It's just like kind of an odd.
Well, that's an oval.
Yeah, but like horizontally,
it's an oval, but it's not really an oval. It has it kind of juts out like at the top and bottom.
It's an ellipse.
It's strange.
Okay, we'll figure that one out.
Where's like a 32 with like a 24 millimeter width strap? If it was pretty wide strap, am I mistaken?
It wears large, like it wears way larger than you would expect it to. But it's because of the shape, it's actually quite comfortable. So
you know what? Speaking of like kind of smallish watches that have kind of wide footprints because of the integrated strap or bracelet, the Parmigiani Fleurier Tonda. PF, the micro rotor, that last week now came out with a 36 millimeter version of it, and I'm really excited about it because a few times that we've seen these watches, they're pretty fabulous, I think. But the bracelet integrates the case like there's no it starts to taper, but the bracelet is still like as wide as the case almost as it starts to like kind of go around your wrist, so it wears a bit larger than the diameter would suggest. So I think 36 millimeters will be bang on for this watch. I'm excited to see this.
It's curious. What is this lug width on the current reference?
Well, it's a true integrated situation.
Oh,
there.
But I see what
so
you're saying.
There's like a structure inside of the lug and maybe like a 15 millimeter spring bar in there that gets that length.
I've filmed so many watches over the last few months that I don't recall. It is coming to mind though now. I know what you're talking about, the integrated bracelet. Yeah, I do like the look of it though. The styling of it's really attractive.
And it's quite comfortable too. Yeah. It's a sharp watch for sure. So we'll get our hands on that one pretty soon. I hope. I like that one quite a bit. All right, but we're going to talk about watches. A watch came out last week. It's from Fears, and it has no markings on the dial. It's just hands. That's it. Hour, minute, sub-seconds, and nothing else. And then it's just white.
How do you tell the time?
How do you tell the time? So
you possibly know the time on that thing.
I run a Movado museum watch regularly. So.
Yeah, Movado Museum, Cartier has watches like this. They're out there. They exist. Moser, yep. How do we feel about this? Do you guys, Zach? I know where you probably stand because you've famously I've got a phone in my pocket all the time.
No, you stole my line. That's what I was going to say.
That was going to be what you went straight to. I mean, see, there's not even any indications around the running seconds to be like.
Right.
Yeah, but I guess on that level, yes. It's why do I need to know?
Someone took the April Fool's design and actually made it. Is what you're saying? But
does this get you into? It's practical enough.
I think that so when I see a watch that doesn't have any, hour markers or minute markers of any kind,
is it really?
Usually, it's it's more kind of on the arty side of things. I think of Moser as kind of the classic example, and also the Movado. Museum watch is a good example too. They're designed with an artistic point behind them. Whether that succeeds or not is a matter of your personal taste or whatever. But it's meant to showcase the dial or the way that the dial kind of interacts with the case in a way that you're not distracted by, things like telling the time, basically.
Trivial.
I don't know. Like in that context, I like watches like that. Again, like some are I find successful and some I don't. But like as you said, Blake, like we all have, it's something I say all the time. Like we have cell phones. Like I don't need every watch to have like that precision, like down to the minute, at a glance time telling.
Yeah.
As like the watch I'm wearing now. Like I'm wearing the this IWC Pilot's watch where I can just take a quick look at it and know like to the minute what time it is. I don't need that from every watch that I own. So I think there's like a time, excuse the pun, and place for those kinds of sterile dials that just focus on like a texture or a color or a handset or whatever, something like unique about that watch that's being highlighted.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that like your IWC, the Speedmaster has all these hash marks and chapter rings and all this kind of stuff. So you can look at it and I could get exactly to the second. It's very accurate as well. But most of the time when I glance down at it, it's to see like how close I am to like the top of the hour or quarter past or whenever I have something going. I'm not looking for, it is 2:38 and like this many seconds, because that is what am I going to do with that?
With that information.
But I'm like, okay, well, it's coming up on 4:00 here, so I'm going to start wrapping this up or get ready for that meeting, or I got to take off or whatever it is. More so than it's 4:47, kind of exactly. So that said, are there any watches that you think would be interesting, like if they were treated as that, like maybe strip away some of the this thing has too many hash marks and minute, like this would be a really beautiful experience if it was just kind of stripped down and let to sing. I always go to the Grand Seikos and like they do really beautiful textures and colors, and like I want less of the dates and all that kind of, like just give me like an hour hand and a minute hand and let the rest like do its thing. If you want to put an hour marker or a minute hashes, like etch them into the underside of the dial or crystal,
that'd be really cool,
or something like that. But I want that like expression, that like beautiful creative expression of whatever it is that they're trying to communicate about their landscape or their seasons or their culture, to really kind of like shine through.
So on a side note, it's interesting. The Spheres is cool. I'm surprised no one's made a watch called the Ballpark that just it just moves in increments of 5 and gives you a ballpark estimate of the time, because that would be genuinely enough. When someone asks me the time and I give them the time, I round up every time, or I'll say it's like 10 till, or I'll say if it's like 27 minutes in, I'll say, oh, it's 6:30. I always give them a ballpark estimate. And it's funny because I've been eyeing this watch from a separate brand, Mr. Jones watches, and it's called the Ricochet, and it's a bunch of robots playing a pinball, but the machine actually tells increments in 5 minutes. So it's like 40, 45, 50, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And to me, that's all you need. That's
Mr.
great.
Jones is a great example of, I think
simplified time telling, but art.
The point is something else, maybe.
Right. Yeah, the time is secondary there. Where the Fears watch, time is the main component because it's right there in the middle, and the artistry is the white dial. Maybe
the Fears watch is kind of like I don't know that I really like that watch too much, to be honest. Like. The thing that always draws me to Fears watches are those like hour markers. Like they just have like such a great like numeral design, and like to me, you're kind of, I haven't seen this watch in person, but like it seems like you're kind of stripping away the thing that like I personally like most about those Fears watches. So I don't know, like I didn't have like an immediately positive reaction to that watch, and I guess my my answer to your question, Blake, about watches, like is there a watch I'd like to see those everything kind of stripped away. I feel like I got a little bit of a taste of that with the Zenith Shadow that I reviewed recently, which doesn't have minute markers. It has like a tachymeter scale that sort of at a glance looks like a minute marker around the perimeter of the map, but like once you realize that it's missing that, like the whole thing just kind of felt off to me. So it's tough for me to imagine a watch that like I know that what it would be like if it didn't have those those markers. But
interesting. So that watch didn't work for you, like that El Primero didn't work for you because
the dial just always felt off to me. Like, so I in the review,
and it has no date
like,
either.
I really, I love the style of that watch, like the sleekness of it, like the weight of it, the shape of the case, but just something about the dial felt off, and it was just kind of like maddening at certain times to expect to be able to get like a precise read on the time and to not be able to.
Yeah.
Right. And then and you question like rated accuracy for that movement. It's odd. I'm assuming it's a nice movement that has, it can be maybe chronometer grade, right? Or is it chronometer grade? It always bothers me when a watch lacks minute markings. Well, for time setting standpoint, then you mechanical people,
very accurate,
if its thing is being very accurate, but also I had a Waldorf edition Helios Seaforth a little while back, and I loved it cosmetically, but man, did it kill me that it lacked minute markings. If I'm not mistaken, I've had a few watches that have lacked minute markings, but when you're trying to set the time and you need to like wait till an hour marker appears to like get it on the hour or get it on the minute, you know what I mean? Or whatever that approximation is. That bothers me separately. But yeah, if it was designed to disregard minutes, then that's separate. You know what I mean? Where this is a time-telling device, what you need to have, there's got to be some context, right? There needs to be a reason you're removing the minute markings to make sense of it to me, right? And if it isn't immediately apparent, then I can imagine being upset, like maybe like you were with this Zenith, which is interesting that they would leave the tacky though. As
much as like the Zenith bothers me, like I look at a Moser, with their with their completely bare dial without any markers of any kind, and like to me that makes sense, and that wouldn't bother me, on a day-to-day basis, because like the dial is the point, like they're highlighting the like the fume effect or the texture or whatever it happens to be on that particular dial. But because the Zenith is a sports chronograph, you kind of like expect a certain level of like precision in what the dial markings give you, and that's not the case in a like what is it basically an art piece if you're looking at the Moser,
right?
But maybe they're removing anything other than that timing seconds hand, like they just. And the tachymeter function, right? That's its sole function.
It's like a watch with just a seconds hand.
Well, just that time in seconds hand, I feel
like we've discussed that before.
Waiting
that's
for
an insane idea. I love it.
Only the seconds. I only need to know the seconds. I've actually, it's odd because I guess I'm too practically minded to want to watch without minute markings, but I've always liked, there's a earlier, I want to say 80s reference Movado Museum watch that's in an oval case, not the round case, in a precious metal, gold, some form of 18 karat gold, that I've always wanted. And obviously that lacks everything. It's just minute, hour, hand, and then a dot at 12. But it's striking, and it was intended to just be a beautiful piece of kinetic art on your wrist. That I can appreciate. But if I were to buy something like that, I can imagine myself not wearing it that often.
Yeah. You would still enjoy it, though. Right?
I would enjoy it in a box. Yeah.
In a box.
Yeah. But I'm too practically minded now.
As it was meant to be enjoyed.
Right. Yeah. Why would I wear this?
Well, there's inherent like imperfections in these things. These are mechanical things that aren't as perfect as quartz counterparts and things like that. But that's kind of the beauty of them in the first place. That it's kind of like. It's like the Japanese bowls, the ceramics that have like the cracks and like imperfections. Like
what is it called?
But it's like it's like made by a human hand, and that's part of the beauty of it.
That's some of my favorite pottery. It bothers me that I'm not remembering the name of it.
So, but in what is mechanical movement if not that? I mean, I know a human hand like isn't, unless it's like Roger Smith or Philippe Dufour or something like that. But like the technology itself is. Clearly past it, like it's antiquated, right?
Of course.
So how we choose, like, or how some brands kind of choose to put it to use in some of these ways, from like dead practical, like a Tudor, whatever, to like Mr. Jones, or this Fears or something. I don't know, maybe it says more about us than it does about the watches. How
honestly, I think we probably give it more thought than a lot of brands who are like kind of like pumping out watches. Like I get the sense sometimes that like, like certain like design details are afterthoughts like a lot of the time, and like only when like watch enthusiasts get their hands on these things do they really get down into like the granular level.
Do you think
that's my somewhat cynical perspective, I guess?
Do you think that like bigwigs from brands ever go into a forum post about their watch and then like discover things that hadn't even crossed their mind about, I don't know, a date placement?
It would be
like
great
whatever.
if more did. That would be like a fantastic. It's a fantastic idea. I think they should all be in the forums.
And they're like, oh shit, that guy's right.
Yeah,
this does suck, or whatever. Like they're learning something about how we experience it, and how it's like the artists once they finish a thing and put it out there, like it's not there, like it's up to the perception of it belongs to the world, everyone else now, and what they make of it is really what the meaning of it is. So, wow, this got like deep pretty fast.
Pretty deep for a Friday afternoon.
For a White Dial Fears watch.
White Dial Fears watch has us questioning a lot.
Life itself.
Yeah. But Patrick, you started purging all the mechanical.
Oh, I've transcended
from your collection, and I think a lot of people that initially come into watches and get to know watches, spend time on the forum, they're like, I got to get rid of all these quartz watches. They're only mechanical. You're saying you've come all the way back around to the other end now. Right.
Yeah, it's odd. I feel like we've all had cheap quartz watches, and I don't mean like they're poorly constructed, but by and large, I think when people think of quartz watches, it's like sub $100 or something that you got out of a Happy Meal, right? It's something that's generally affordable, does an okay job of telling the time, and is generally disposable, or at least, not something you think of cherishing or passing down. There's not going to inherit some sort of legacy with this timepiece. But there are really good quartz options out there that are well made, like this Grand Seiko I'm wearing, that have brilliant movements that don't deserve to be stigmatized in that same way, right? I think it's a little unfair assessment. And I know that when I got into the hobby years ago, it was a goal to like, but it's like mecha quartz movement. No, I want my real mechanical chronograph. I want it to be real inaccurate all the time. I really want to make sure that I'm winding it all the time. Otherwise, I'm going to have to set it a week later. But once I've collected years of mechanical watches, I've realized, again, I'm too practically minded. I really dislike that when I look at my box and I want to put something on, there is a procedure that needs to occur where I need to set it. And I'm very picky with how my minute hand aligns, with just the second cross of 12 and the minute strikes the minute on the dial, because Lord forbids, I'm not buying a watch that doesn't have minute markings. Right? So those little things are obstacles that I have to overcome every day.
But aren't those also things that like you enjoy? Like, did you ever enjoy that part? Like, I know a lot of people like they enjoy getting up in the morning and like winding the watch and setting it. Like, that's a part of their relationship with the watch.
Right.
And,
I love Helios, but I've sold so many. I had a Universa that was manually wound, and I sold it because I did not enjoy manually winding it. There is this thing in my head where I don't want to overwind it. I know, and then like it recommends 20 turns, but like I got big hands. Maybe my turns are longer than their turns. It's like it's. I go through so many mental hurdles with mechanical that it's simpler for me to just set the watch. Set this a month ago and not ever think about it again. Because the part I enjoy, and you were talking about how you're looking at, when you look at your watch, this is how you read the time. When I look at my watch, I'm usually just looking at my watch. And I feel bad when I'm in a crowd and I look at my watch. It's like, are we boring, Pat? And it's like, no, I just like how this looks. I actually genuinely just like how this watch looks. And if you needed the time, it's accurate.
Yeah. Look, I'm 100% in the same camp as you. I'm sure all of us, and if you're listening to this, I'm sure you've done the same thing too, where you look at your watch 5 times and you have no idea what time it is.
Exactly.
I think
that's the best. Where you're like,
normal.
You do it, and they're like,
healthy.
So what time is it? And you're like, you got to do it again.
Yeah. It's but do you see how this dial looks in this light? Isn't it beautiful?
Right.
And I don't disagree with anything that you said there, and I think there's some amazing things happening in these realms that are maybe often unfairly maligned or overlooked when they shouldn't be. I think it's also important to note that there, are certain like completely machine-made automatic movements that are made to be disposable as well. Like I don't think it's like a differentiating or like a dividing factor in these two. It's not like that elevates.
Looking at you, Swatch.
Yeah, but I also enjoy the kind of like interaction that I have with imperfect mechanical movements as well. And there's different things that I appreciate about that, and the different things that I appreciate about Quartz watches, and I think we all own some, and I have nothing negative to say about any of them. But there's still an element that like I kind of enjoy, but I could see if you had like little issues with it just never gets there.
For my mental health, it's better. It's better. But then you need to deal, suffer with the fact like, oh, that seconds doesn't skip to the minute hash.
This is like saying look, I could be a vegetarian. I like all vegetarian dishes, but I also like a steak every now and then. Or I know it's probably not as good for me, and they're not as good as the Quartz movements, but you kind of need them every now and then. It's good for the soul, right? Is that like a good burger is good for the soul every now and then? I guess there's a similar situation here where yes, it's better, but
right.
But do you need to come back into this, or are you just like into the other realm?
My only issue with collecting Quartz, or at least making this decision, is that there aren't that many people designing. And maybe I'm missing it. Let me know in the comments or message me if you know of a brand that's designing really interesting stuff around Quartz movements. And there are Mecha Quartz movements out in a lot of brands. Everyone loves Brew. I can think of Brew's Metric. That's fantastic. But there aren't that many people designing in this. I would say it's like 30-70. I feel like 70% of the market is designing with mechanical in mind, and they get a lot of cool designs. So I sort of feel like I'm missing out on the aesthetic elements of certain brands' watches. And when it comes to high accuracy Quartz, it's nice that Grand Seiko, and this is why I bought this watch, and what I like about them is that they offer the same, case designs between their spring drive, between their mechanical, between their Quartz. So I can still get the cases I love from like their Heritage collection and get a highly accurate movement. That's even just a little bit thinner than
they take it seriously.
And they take it seriously.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I guess I hadn't thought of it like that.
Patrick, you're about to get flooded with messages about like interesting 80s watches that are Quartz.
I love that.
Bring it on, right?
Like
I
all
hope
sorts
so.
of cool multifunction watches, like
all about it.
A whole world of stuff that could like only be Quartz that you're gonna you could be exposed to.
Right. Yeah. There's plenty of stuff out there. That's maybe the only thing I'm missing. I am holding on to one mechanical watch that I wore when I proposed to Allie, which is my Rado Captain Cook.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Wait, do you still have the fair?
As of now.
Okay.
Yeah, wow. As of now. I still have it. Okay. It's a lovely watch. It's actually her favorite watch, speaking of my fiance. Oh, but yeah, it's beautiful. That's why I need I want a Blue Dial watch that's comparable. But the Captain Cook's amazing. I love that watch. Setting it is a pain in the butt. The crown's so small. It's such a hassle, but it's so accurate. So lovely on the wrist.
You still love it.
Yeah.
There's still something, right?
Yeah, it's worth the hassle.
My kid's a pain in the butt too, but like I keep him around. I like him, Like.
Kind of committed to that one. Yeah. Can't just sell them on eBay. But no, I'm happy with that watch, and I'm happy if that's the one mechanical watch in my collection. But I don't know. This thing's rated to last 25 years or something like that, and my kid will enjoy it, I'm sure.
Okay.
We'll see.
All right. Kazan, could you pull off a move like this?
Selling all my mechanical watches for Quartz? Just no, that's not my not my thing. I like mechanical. Like part of what interests me about watches in general is like the mechanical movement. So like it's just been like a point of fascination for me for as long as I've been into watches. So I mean I love mechanical watches. My collection is made up mostly of mechanical watches, but I also enjoy like a well-made Quartz watch, and I think that there's like I have multiple Quartz watches, as I know you do, Blake, and I think that there's there's room in every collection for both mechanical and Quartz, unless you're Patrick and you're just
actively
really trying to prove a point. Yeah. But
I mean, it's just one less thing I need to think about.
Okay,
I think that's been benefiting me.
I mean, it kind of this whole conversation kind of underlines how there's so many different ways to collect, right? Like everyone has their own, interests, and like there's no right or wrong way to do it. So like there's all kinds of like interesting quartz watches out there that are worth collecting and worth owning, and like quartz doesn't take a backseat to any mechanical.
Yeah,
I do agree with you. I think it would be great to see more brands like take quartz watches seriously within the context of the collections that they create.
Right.
I think like Breitling maybe has some pretty neat watches that are like this. Bell and Ross has some cool like anti-digi type stuff where
for sure.
They're not. It's not like, oh, this is like the entry, like low end of our collection. It's like, no, here's really cool things that we've created specifically for these movements.
Look at suckers like me to buy them.
Yeah, exactly. We need an aerospace in here.
I was looking at them.
Yeah,
I like them.
I like them too.
Yeah,
they need to bring a proper aerospace back.
I don't know what's in their modern collection so far as like anti-digi watches with Breitling. Do they have an aerospace in their current catalog?
Do they have one in their current catalog?
I think so. I don't think it's I'm not sure. I'm not gonna. I don't want to be.
But that's
like be quoted.
That's like the one that's socially acceptable for some reason when it comes to quartz watches. Like there's a whole following for Breitling aerospaces, and it's like that movement's in other watches, but for some reason, like that's the one.
It's legit.
It's a cool titanium cased, at least the majority titanium cased reference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know all the nuances there, but they're nice.
Okay, I just went to the Breitling website. Okay, watches. Is the aerospace a men or a woman watch?
Ooh, it's probably
now I'm already
unisex. I don't know. That's a separate conversation topic. How do you feel about men versus female watches? Any watch is anyone's watch. Yeah, in my opinion.
Exactly. All right, so they do have anti-digi stuff. They've got these professional watches, and yes, Aerospace Evo.
Huh.
Yeah, look at that.
Oh, shoot.
Endurance Pro. Yeah, they've got some cool stuff.
Only a cool $4,450. Is it worth it? I guess we'll find out. I'm sure it uses some form of like high-end ETA though, right? Like,
I would hope so.
It's interesting to chronometer certify a quartz watch. I don't understand how that process goes. Is it the same as like grading a mechanical watch?
The same. There's a separate test for quartz.
That's kind of cool, though. Is that distinction, get the emergency?
The emergency.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Hopefully never have to use it. Yeah, that's cool. I like it. That one looks great with the blue dial.
That's pretty sharp. I like that.
All right. Aerospace Evo.
All right, so there you go. Aerospace
next on the list.
Still hanging around there. So more power to him. Let us know down below if you have a soft spot for quartz. Do your mechanical watches annoy you to the extent that you want to get them all out of your household and replace?
Can't look at another one
with quartz watches. Let us know down in the comments below. Let's see here. Any housekeeping? We've got podcasts that are going live of the panel discussions that we had at Wind Up New York. So browse through our channel. You'll find them there. Don't miss Zach Kazan's new podcast, Time on Screen. They did a recording last week on Contact. And presumably more of those will be coming soon.
Yes, absolutely. If anyone has suggestions, DM me, leave notes in the comments. I would love to. We have a long list, but I want more suggestions from the community. So let us know what you want to hear us talk about.
All right. Well, let Kazan know down in the comments what movies you want to hear him talk about. And I still want to come on that podcast at some point. I was bummed to miss the Contact one.
Let's do it.
So, all right. Until then, thank you for tuning in and listening. If you haven't left us a review on iTunes or whatever, please go do that. That helps us out. We like hearing your feedback and things like that. So, all right. Until next time, thanks for listening. Take care.